You're It, a short story for you. A small chartered plane, State Senator Catherine Starling sat between her secretary, Trina, and her assistant, Pete. Attractive in her late 30s, Catherine had penetrating dark eyes that made people uncomfortable. She figured she knew it all and had all the answers. Her blue pantsuit fit perfectly on her slender, agile body, and in her lap were some speech notes that she was working on. In their 20s, Trina and Pete stared at her in awe as she explained a dream she had. Catherine was a confident speaker, and she always talked with her hands. It was like a new world. The colors were so vibrant and pulsing. Everything was alive. The sun was so bright but not blinding. It felt so peaceful, she told them. Catherine looked into Trina and Pete's eyes. They were like the children she never had. Their big eyes and mouths were wide open. Then when I woke up, I sat up, and I swear I saw 3 figures in a haze, not quite in focus. One looked like me, my higher self, I think. Catherine sat up straight in her swivel chair. Nearby was a fold-down table with her iPad, phone, and purse. The other 2 were men, I think, maybe angels. I was not sure. One looked like it was androgynous, maybe Gabriel, and I didn't recognize the other one, maybe Senator, and Peter snickered at her. Maybe you've been meditating too much, Catherine. His glasses slid down his long nose. And you were alone for the entire weekend, Trina added, and she had a habit of circling her head around and throwing her long black hair back. What were you doing? Research on, what do you call it? Okay. Catherine smirked. It was her favorite word. The cabal. She shook her finger at them. But I remember meeting Hillary Clinton a few years back. She's different now, a clone. And so is Cheney, the Bushes, the Pope, the Queen. And Pete and Trina looked at each other and laughed at her. The plane started to swerve back and forth. You better not come out in public with that stuff, Pete insisted. You'll get yourself in more trouble. He knew she was quite a maverick. Well, it's not our real government, okay? Catherine made faces at them. Her phone rang and she grabbed it up off the table. We've been brainwashed, she kept talking to them. Is that why you drink and use only distilled water and fluoride-free toothpaste? Pete wanted to know. Catherine sighed at them and talked on her phone. Yes. Hi, Martin. What is it? The plane kept swaying back and forth and started to descend. They paid no attention to it. Catherine sat back in her chair listening to her fellow senator from Indiana. What? Her eyes lighted up. He's not running again? He mentioned me for governor? She looked at Trina and Pete, grinning at them. Governor at 40, president at 50. Senator Starling, they heard the pilot interrupting them. We have a problem. Something's wrong with the engines. Oh, God, he exclaimed. And then the engine stopped. Trina, Pete, and Catherine jumped startled, and the plane took a sharp nosedive, and they all screamed. In the middle of the plane crash, Catherine's body lay in the rubble. Her arms and neck were scratched and bleeding. Waking up, she rolled her head over. Catherine Starling, she heard a man's low voice calling her name. Looking up, she saw Samsonique, a tall man, standing over her. His arm reached down for her. Pain shot up her back as she tried to move. She thought her legs were broken. I can help you become a star, he spoke softly. Help me. Weakly, she reached out to him. He squatted down and easily picked her up. His arms felt warm around her as she felt herself falling. She kept going down and down and down through a hole in the earth. She thought it would never end. The movement stopped. She opened her eyes. Samsonique, the man, stood over her. He was tall, clean-cut, with a nice, smooth, serene face. He had long, flowing blonde hair and deep blue eyes. He wore light green flowing robes. His hand slowly, carefully, and lightly moved over Catherine's body. He straightened her legs out. The pain drained away from her, and breathing deeply, Catherine blinked and saw him. I stopped falling. Am I in hell? Samsonique smiled at her. No. Where am I? She looked around the small room that was made of crystal. Inside, he answered. Inside what? She looked at his warm, alluring eyes. Where am I? Agartha, inside our planet. She could feel the life and warmth back in her body and legs. What? She propped herself up on her elbows. Who are you? Samsonique. I can help you be all you can be. His smile showed his dimples. My God, she sighed, relieved. Samsonique braced her to help her up. I need to get back. Catherine wanted to get up. You do not need to worry about that. Would you like to release all your limitations and become a part of the cosmos? She stared at him, realizing he was serious and not joking. I'm just a senator from Ohio. You can be so much more. President, she stated. It was part of her life plan. Much, much more. He didn't move and was very serious. Catherine had always been open-minded with her attitudes and opinions, and quite outspoken with everything in her life. She called him Sam. He didn't mind. They walked to his peaceful world of vibrant colors, of majestic valleys, rivers, and waterfalls. It was like a dream to Catherine. It was also surreal. Sam taught her balance. Catherine stood on one foot with her arms straight up and her hands folded in prayer. Starting to wobble, she lost her balance, and Sam caught her. Meeting other humans like Sam was exciting and fascinating to Catherine. They were all tall, nice-looking, with light hair and blue eyes, and they conveyed peace, love, light, and joy. It was like a montage in a movie. Now, she always seemed to be moving, doing something. It was always the now. She lost track of time. On top of a hill, Sam taught Catherine Tai Chi moves and corrected her moves. Her breathing was deep and deliberate. They sat on the ground near a lake. Sam took her hand and placed it on each of the 7 chakras and explained the purpose of her energy centers. She also learned to meditate on the chakras. Feel the energy at each point in your body. Start with the root chakra. Move it up through your body to your head. He knocked her on the top of the head. Take the top off, he teased her and smiled. She smiled back. Forget all you have learned from your world. Listen to your heart calling to you. Calm yourself. Strength and flexibility are yours. Your fears are gone. Your limitations are gone. Your lack and your ego. Just listen to your heart. Sam guided her every move. Then he pushed her into the lake, and Catherine came up gasping, looking up at him. Float, he suggested. Catherine nodded. Remember, confidence, patience. Your fear is gone. Catherine loved the water. It made her relax, rejuvenate, and meditate. She sat in a garden, on the ground, surrounded by the smells and sounds of a flower garden. Closed, she went into deep meditation. From a distance, Sam watched her. He noticed a yellow aura engulfing her and nodded in approval. And then, alone, asleep in her room made of crystal, she felt comfort, warmth, love, and peace. She could feel the music soothing her soul. They also had meals together of fruit and nuts. It was very energized and very filling. In another garden, she was in the lotus position and stared at the beautiful yellow flower in front of her. It got brighter and more vibrant. Breathing deeply, with her eyes closed, she concentrated on the flower, making it even brighter. Then she heard a loud drum beat. It got louder and louder and louder. It bothered her, and her eyes furrowed. No, she heard Sam's voice in her head. Concentrate on the flower. Be one with the flower. You are the flower. She knew he was close by, but didn't see him. Breathing deeply, she felt and saw the yellow light surrounding her. She was very still and heard another voice. A feminine voice was Sam. Her ears twitched and she heard their conversation. Catherine is doing very well, Samsonique. Yes, Rochelle, he replied to her. The way you look at her, are you in love with her? Rochelle's voice was mellow and calm. He hesitated for a moment. She has a beautiful spirit with an open heart and mind. Yes, she will become a wonderful guide for her race. And Rachel commented, and Sam showed her all that he knew. Catherine was loving her spiritual journey. Sam showed her everything he knew. The flowers, birds, and small animals scampered around the area. A small white ball sat in Catherine's open palm and outstretched arm. Sam faced her 20 feet away from her with his outstretched arm and open hand. He waited for the ball to come to him. Believe it is real. Believe it is in my hand. See it in my hand. He stared at her. Move it to my hand. He stayed calm. Staring at the ball, Catherine focused and concentrating on moving it to him. Closing her eyes, she breathed deeply. Slowly, the ball lifted up and floated toward Sam. Catherine kept her focus when a large blue-green butterfly flew past her nose. She flinched and the ball dropped to the ground. Disturbed and angry with herself, Catherine shook her head. "It's okay, Catherine," Sam told her. "Stay positive. It will come." Sam and Catherine walked through a valley with hills. In the distance, waterfalls tumbled into the rivers. The colors of green, blue, white, and brown were brilliant and glowing. Catherine's head was down. "Yeah, I was an orphan. A couple adopted me as a teen, and I wanted to be on my own. I've been fighting for everything in my life." "It is in the past, Catherine. Let it go. You are not that tough, angry little girl." Smiling and shaking her head, she looked around. "I'm in heaven. You've been good to me, Sam. Thanks." And many times they would play hide and seek with telepathy and teleportation. "You're it. It's my turn." And they were playing tag. "You've always been open-minded," he told her. He smiled at her. "You are making good progress. Remember, let go and let your spirit soar. All is well in the universe, and you can do this. You have control of your destiny." As Catherine slept, her body, mind, and spirit felt the universe around her, bathing her with love and light. And together they swam in the crystal blue clear water. It felt like Catherine could hold her breath forever and never come up. Then they came up and floated on top of the lake, looking up at the clear sky. The water felt warm and soothing. Floating on her back, Catherine closed her eyes. Her spirit soared, and her consciousness saw the stars and planets. She was floating in outer space. It took her by surprise. Quickly, she woke up on the lake and spun around looking at Sam. "Wow, this is so fantastic. I love it here." She was at peace with herself and comfortable. Then on a hilltop, Catherine was alone and practiced her Tai Chi moves. Feeling free, it felt like she was dancing. Balancing on her one leg, right leg, she felt her light body dancing around her. Sitting down, she meditated for a while. A slight breeze passed her body, and Sam's teaching echoed in her ears. Love is everything. Fear is gone. Lack is gone. Limitations are gone. Remember, you are a spirit in a new dimension. Your body is only a container. Catherine's head nodded as she melted further into her soul. Her light body spun around her with all the colors of her chakras. The giant forest trees emitted dazzling greens and brown colors, and Catherine and Sam danced along a path. She taught him how to dance. "Yeah, as a kid I was a Star Trek fan. I loved the idea of space travel and other planets." Catherine's face had a constant smile of peace and joy. She spun around as Sam disappeared, but she heard his voice. "You're it. Find me." "Oh, not again." Catherine spun around. "What am I thinking?" His low voice was heard. Closing her eyes, Catherine visualized his face, eyes, mouth, ears, and nose. "You are meeting with Rochelle later." Catherine's head twitched, disturbed by what she felt from him. "You love me?" She also felt his hesitation to respond. "Of course I love you. You have a beautiful spirit and mind and soul." "I feel it is more, Sam." Blinking word, Catherine didn't know what to make of it. Her training continued with a picnic in the forest. Their tablecloth was spread out near a large tree. Catherine gulped down a piece of fruit and laughed at him. And he laughed also, and Catherine adored his dimples, especially when he laughed. Was she in love with him too? She wasn't sure. There was no sense of time whatsoever. It was always joy and energy, and they kept going. And later, Catherine was alone in the valley, walking along, very happy and peaceful. Then she heard Sam's voice. "Come to me. Teleport." "It's tag. Remember, only positive thoughts, and you can do this." Looking around, Catherine's ears twitching, trying to remember where his voice was coming from. Closing her eyes, she listened for the echo of his voice. She envisioned where he was standing. She heard a babbling brook, birds, and leaves rustling in the trees. She saw him leaning back on a tree. She stretched out her arms, raising them up. Her body disappeared and reappeared in the forest. She turned around, bumping into a tree and some branches in her face. Her right hand hit a branch hard and was cut, and she had to grab her sore nose. Sam peeked around the other side of the tree. "That was close." He laughed at her. then looked at her hand. "Let's fix this." Their eyes met. Her palm was in his palm. "Use your healing powers." Looking at her hand, Catherine focused on the scratch in her right palm. She breathed deeply on the bloody scratch and felt it with her left fingers. The blood and scratch dried up, and only a small scar was left. They smiled at each other. "I've learned so much, Sam," she turned to him. "I want to share what I've learned." "Yes, indeed," was his usual reply, and he smiled at her. In the lake, Catherine and Sam swam around and dove under water. The water seemed to disappear around them. Without her body, Catherine's eyes opened and she found herself in space, and the stars and the planets in the distance. In the nearby hills, Catherine and Sam meditated. Their light bodies were vibrant and soared around the area, then into space. Then Catherine's eyes popped open. She found herself back at the plane crash. Quickly, she jumped up and felt herself. She looked around at the plane and dead bodies. Gulping, she wiped herself off. Closing her eyes, she felt relieved. "My God, I was dreaming." "It was real," she heard Sam's voice echoing in her ears. Her eyes rolled around in awe and her mouth fell open. "I am with you, Catherine Starling." "Oh, yes, you changed your name." His voice giggled. "K. Star." "A dream." She stared down at the three bodies in the rubble. Trina and Pete were pinned under the smashed cabin of the plane. "Oh, no!" She screamed and grabbed the heavy piece of plane off of them. She heaved it away easily. With wide eyes, she stared at her hand with the scar. "Oh, my God, it did happen." She felt her body. "Wonder how long I was gone." "5 of your years," she heard Sam's voice in her mind. "But you are back to your time now." Stunned, her face dropped down in shock. She looked at the right palm and the tiny scar. And Kay felt Sam's love and spirit that would be with her always. "It is your turn now. You're it," his voice echoed, and she smiled. So she dropped out of politics and became a teacher. If you enjoyed this story, there's more waiting for you. And if you'd like more information on spirituality, the information is available right here. Thanks for watching and listening. And I offer you love, peace, and joy.